The part I'm going to read to you today comes from a moment in the story where Toby, Annabelle, and Strobe are going to go on their first mission. The Killer Pizza group has discovered that the Guattatas are using a park in the center of town as a meeting place at night. And when they hear over the police scanner that a young boy has gone missing, they put two and two together and figure out that this boy has been captured by the Guattatas. And Annabelle, Strobe, Toby, and Harvey decide to head down to the park at night and take down these Guattatas. Toby's really nervous because this is his first mission. It's at night. The weather is horrible. It's storming. And he knows that he's going to have to use his crossbow skills for the very first time. And this will also be the first time he's facing a real live Guattata, or Guattatas, more than one. And so the part I'm going to read to you happens just after Toby and the group have split up. They have attacked the Guattata group covertly from the top of a hill, and Toby has already been chased by one red-eyed man with long talons, and Toby decided to run away from that man to try and find his fellow KP members. And Toby at this point is fleeing for his life. When Toby reached the top of the hill, he leapt down the steep bank, his hands whirling for balance as his legs pounded through the underbrush. The slashing rain hit his face, making it hard to see more than a few feet in front of him. He couldn't see what was happening down below, but he thought he heard shouts and screams and those blood-curdling battle cries. Bad as all that sounded, Toby was relieved when he heard the continuing sounds of battle. It was better than silence, that's for sure. Toby suddenly felt sharp talons slash at his t-shirt. He cried out in surprise, changed direction, and charged to his right. Glancing wildly over his shoulder, Toby saw his pursuer slip on the slick hill as he tried to follow him, then disappear into the thick underbrush. Through the mist and rain, Toby was able to make out a huge fallen tree trunk up ahead. Skidding dangerously on the slick forest floor, Toby managed to reach the trunk. He dove over it and hit the muddy ground on the other side with a thud. He crawled to the base of the tree where the huge roots, looking like gnarled ancient fingers grasping for some unseen object, had pulled right up out of the ground. Here, there was little space between the tree trunk and the ground, providing Toby with a protected view back in the direction where he had just been. Toby switched the view on his crossbow from close up to wide, then looked into the scope to try to spot the man who had almost snatched him a few moments earlier. No sign of him. Toby moved the scope back and forth, desperately trying to get a bead on the guy. Just then, the underbrush shook to Toby's right. Toby took aim at the telltale movement of the bushes and fired his arrow. Without waiting to see whether or not the arrow had found its mark, Toby fired another, then another. He was about to fire once again when the man blasted up out of the underbrush, right in front of him. Toby fell back in surprise. He couldn't believe it. There was nothing human left in the man. He had turned 100% Guattata. The sight of the thing took Toby's breath away. Teeth the size of paring knives, tightly coiled muscles under the irregularly spotted, leathery skin, an abnormally huge chest accenting its massive frame. With the rain and mud, thunder and flashes of lightning, plus the way the creature had appeared so suddenly from the bushes, Toby had the strange sensation that hell had split open and spit the thing right out into the woods. And then it was coming right at him. Toby fired the final arrow in his cartridge, dove and slid under the massive tree trunk. He yanked his knife from the sheath on his forearm plate and turned to meet the creature. But instead of a taloned hand grabbing for him, Toby's eyes bulged when the Guattata lifted the massive tree trunk up off the ground. The few roots that were still attached to the earth snapped loose. Dirt flew into Toby's face. The earth then exploded around him. The tree trunk crashed back to the muddy soil, missing Toby by mere inches, literally shaking the ground on impact. Toby cried out in pain as a sharp tree branch stabbed into his calf. He rolled away from the tree trunk, pulled himself to his feet, and launched himself down the hill. Spotting a nearby tree that grew out of the steep hill at an odd 45-degree angle, Toby broke for it. He was certain he had no chance to outrun the Guattata. The tree might provide him with a little protection. When he reached it, he scrambled up the trunk like a hyper monkey. Halfway up the trunk, Toby lodged himself between the two thick branches and looked back toward the base of the tree, expecting to see the guattata either coming for him or about to wrestle the tree right up out of the ground. Toby was shocked to see that the guattata was retreating. He couldn't believe it. There it was, heading back up the hill. As Toby watched the creature disappear into the rain-soaked, misty forest, he suddenly felt woozy. He turned to his leg to check out his injured calf. It was immediately obvious that the tear in his jeans wasn't the result of a tree branch. There were two tears, very sharp, not ragged. The resulting wound was deep enough for the blood to flow freely. The sounds at the bottom of the ravine had gotten softer, Toby realized. It was as though he had put in a couple of earplugs. But wait, the battle sounds below hadn't gotten softer. They had ceased altogether. That's why the guattata had retreated. His friends were okay. It was the guattata who had lost the battle. At least, Toby prayed that was the case. His vision was suddenly blurred, making it difficult to see as far as the bottom of the ravine. Toby reached up a hand. It looked to him as though he was moving in slow motion, to show his partners where he was. A weak raising of the hand was all Toby could muster. He tried to call out for help, but no sound emerged. It was as though his vocal cords had frozen. Toby knew what was happening. He'd read all about the effects of a guattata bite in his textbook. As the rain continued to pound the woods, Toby thought how strange it was to be sweating in such an intense downpour. He already had a fever. He was going fast, and he knew it. They'll never find me up in this tree, Toby thought, as everything started to go dark around him. How perfect is that? Up a tree. That was Toby's last thought before passing out. Well, I won't tell you what happens, but Toby, Annabelle, Strobe, and Harvey are faced with the enormous task of ridding their small town of these guattatas. And it's not easy, especially because the lead guattata, the alpha, is a dangerous, fearsome, imposing beast that is far stronger than anything they've ever faced. And on a night where Toby and Annabelle and Strobe find themselves alone, without Harvey's help, facing the alpha and the entire pack, things, well, let's just say they go badly. If you want to find out if Toby, Annabelle, Strobe, Harvey, the Killer Pizza MCOs can rid their small town of the pack of guattatas and save them from a guattata invasion, you need to read Killer Pizza by Greg Taylor. It's exciting, it's funny in parts, it's scary, the guattatas are nasty things, and trust me, if you read it, you're not going to want to put it down. So go out, get it, read it, tell me about it on the blog, and I will see you next week. Bye.